Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. So glad to have all of you here. This is a meeting that is celebrating nothing. It's just an out and out celebration of nothing. Nothing's gonna happen here. Um, there's nowhere to get to. There's nothing that's lacking. There's just beautiful stories. Right and wrong are both stories. And there's no right and wrong to what is. So that can resonate. There can be a wordless, something resonates with this message that it can't really be explained. All is this can just resonate for no reason. Reasons are for me. That I know is a dream. Nobody knows what this is. They have stories, beautiful empty stories. They seem to explain, but they just lead to more stories. And this meeting is about that which is not a story. It's not a story, but all stories appear in it. So all stories are it as well. Stories you like are it, stories you don't like are it, stories you think are preposterous are it. Some stories you love, you resonate. Wow, deep insight. But it's all this already. This appearing as everything. And me feels separate from everything. Me doesn't feel like there's just everything. There's everything, and then there's me. And that's here that was experienced as suffering. So that's the illusion that there's a separate me. And that separate me seems to be seeking to join back together with the wholeness, but that's all a dream. That's all a story. There's no one merging because there's no one separate from all that is already. You're already all that is, whatever the story, however it feels. So yeah, you could say the stories are unique, the expressions are unique. So that's why, you know, They all appear so marvelously different. But there's an appreciation that can arise for all the expressions that a separate person just can't do. Like as a separate me, right? I could say, well, I'm going to love everyone today. Well, good luck with that. So I, I realized I didn't know, honestly. Like, so if I could just speak simply, here it was just sort of a giving up, like a true not knowing. Like, I don't know to turn left. I don't know to turn right. I don't know. Like, I began to realize I really didn't know anything. Now, here that just felt honest, but others report that it's scary, the experience of letting go of being right or being certain about your knowledge can feel frightening to realize that that was not what it appeared to be, not what you thought it was. And that's this too. Just exactly that experience is this too. Something in you being afraid to let go. It's this too. So the chaos and the confusion are it equally as much as the laughter and the playfulness. It's more fun to be playful than to be confused, and but they're both equally this. Playful is just a natural byproduct of seeing through the solidity of your story. It happens naturally. When the me is clamped to that story and lives and dies with every turn, it seems so important that when that's seen through, there is Paul Hederman calls it traveling lighter. There seems to be a falling away of interest in control. Somehow control became a synonym for suffering here. Peace didn't feel like it was something to be controlled. So this is an open meeting. Everybody's invited to participate. If you have a comment or question, please feel free to unmute and jump in. So that which is talking is not a person, is not Michael in this body talking. There's just talking happening. The listening is not listening as a person. It's just this listening, this talking, this listening, this agreeing, this disagreeing. It's never you. It's always this, regardless of how it may appear. And that's not to discount that it can feel extremely real. Predicaments, problems. It's not to discount that they're incredibly, as it's going on, you can think of a dream at night. In the middle of the dream, it feels as real as anything. So there's that appearance that things may be a certain way. But you may notice that everything keeps changing. The pain that was there this morning, in the afternoon, it's not there. Then maybe it's back again in the evening. But everything is on its own, just changing, just without reason or cause or purpose or meaning. That's the freedom. If it had meaning, it wouldn't be free.
So there was never actually a problem in the first place.
Exactly.
It's funny because it like you said, it really can feel like there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of begs the question, is there actually clinging then? Or is there just the rising and falling of thoughts in the moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. So clinging would be this too. It's always this. It all is this. So even the clinging or the seeking must be this, not you. Not a separate. There's nothing separate from all that is.
So you're saying nobody's nobody's clinging.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you, Landon, for that. That's pretty cool.
Like
What
all
I've oh, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, Landon.
What I've noticed here is that it can appear like in the moment, like you are those thoughts. Like the clinging to the separate self appears to be so solid, but there's actually not clinging. There's just the continued rising of what is, and then the continued falling away of what is.
Well, that clinging, we could say, we'll just call it a story, is really energy. So there can be an energy arising of seeking or an energy arising of clinging. But it's just the energy, it's not you. And that's the suffering, is when I feel compelled and I'm not going to be happy until I find. And then what was seen here was that nothing worked. Like full stop, just nothing worked. Like there's no journey to what is.
It's just already what is, pretty much, right?
Ding,
There's
ding,
not
ding, ding. That's it.
undefined reality, just
Exactly. And it's just this, and it's always this. So, you know, it's just always this. It's just too fresh and new because it's already like whatever you imagined it is, that doesn't exist anymore, except in memory. You know, you can get lost in imagination is can be just you can get it's endless. The amount of imaginings can lead to more imaginings to it's incredible. The rabbit hole of imagination that you can go down endlessly and feel like you're getting somewhere.
So have you noticed a natural like calming down of the mind because there's less clinging on to this apparent story? Is the mind more quiet then?
The one that cared about the thoughts, when that one is seen to not have been there, there's a natural sort of losing of interest where before the thoughts were everything. You know, I thought I was my thoughts. So they couldn't be ignored. But now thoughts are seen as just thoughts.
It's so funny because in one moment you think that you're the thoughts, but then in the next moment you might just recognize it as a thought. Isn't that funny? Mm, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, it is beautiful. If it resonates, it's and without reason. You don't there's no one to confirm it to because there's already no one there. I often describe it as being in love. You don't need a laundry list of pros and cons if you're in love. You're just in love. They can do no wrong. But seeking that in objects, that's the dream. When it's another person that's going to make me happy. And that was tried obviously here too, right? Growing up in relationships, you know, oh, only 6 more hours till I'm with my, sweetie pie. And it was really good for like a double hit because then after leaving her, I can then reminisce, you know, about all the hot smooching. So, but that was suffering because then it was seeing that was always lost in imagination, never really here with just what is, but always sort of escaping into what was not happening, into this imagination. And eventually that's like eating candy all the time. It may seem great in the beginning, but eventually it was unfulfilling. The memories, the nostalgia, the none of that was what I was, apparently looking for. And it turned out it was here all along, but not as something. And that's what me is looking for always is a separate something that because it's got to use it. It has to be something. But what is nothing going to do for me? You know, I have to tell you, doing these meetings is sort of here, it's experienced sort of like coming out of the closet, because for my whole life, I felt just so odd, like so different than I couldn't quite get life and how people could seem to be happy and could make it work. Like just, it escaped me. It was like a magic trick. And yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what my point was.
I had an interesting thought, Michael. You know how the guy climbed the Ferris wheel the other day in Santa Monica?
Yeah.
Maybe he was trying to get out of the hamster wheel. A portal of some kind.
Yeah, the me takes everything as real. So that's why, you see people like losing it all day long, right? They're just because this is real. So, if you look at me wrong, I'm offended and that we have problems. There's just, you know, the me is always sort of, on guard about being disrespected or dissed, as the kids say. It's protective of, because it's based on nothing. It's propped up by its belief. So if you poke at its beliefs, it doesn't like that.
And yet, all these years, I was under the impression that I needed to fight for the me to be respected. And I mean, and it's widely advocated in the self-help industry and the feel better, technology is that you want to be respected. And so anything that happens out there that indicates, that violates that, is causing to me great distress, if not pain.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Peter. You see it all the time. I mean, it cracks. I have to say, it is pretty humorous because you'll see terms and they'll say, oh, well, Kim Kardashian threw shade at her. Threw shade at her. Kim Kardashian threw shade at her. What? What? How do you throw shade? Oh no, it's a term. It means she, So it's like there's these endless terms that just pop up out of nowhere and give the me. Now we've got new vocabulary, we can throw shade at somebody and, let them know, put them in their place.
Jesus, it sounds so exhausting to say. So much work on the me.
I'm going to use an older term that I learned a little later, which is I had 2 meetings scheduled with my sister, and she stood me up twice, and it really, I thought, wow, now I got to set some boundaries here. This is not going to stand,
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I'm glad. Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with setting boundaries. Like if somebody is rude, it's just, I gotta say, in the spiritual seeking thing, there was always this like sort of fear of asking for what I wanted, like just saying it, because spirit, I should be easygoing. I should let others have their way, and the meek shall inherit the earth. And listen, being meek or asking for what you want are no better. So you might as well ask for what you want. But there's a way to do it that's sort of, it's hard to explain, but there's a way of connecting with people that when you ask for what you want, it's without attachment. They can tell that you don't care whether you get it or not, but you're asking.
I know exactly what you mean, Michael, because at first I made a big heavy thing out of it, and then I just told her, I said, you know what? You organize the next meeting. So you do all the work, because I did all the work, what date, what time, and then sitting here and no show. So I just like you said, just stating like, why don't you do it the next few times, So that felt much better.
Nice.
Yeah, but also you make a good point. I'm really glad you brought, because at first I thought, well, yeah, it's why do I have this frustration when I'm sitting here and she doesn't show up twice, and to hear or to realize, hey, it's just what appears and it's fine. It's not wrong to be frustrated when you get stood up. It's frustrating.
Exactly.
Yeah, even as I listened to you talk, Peter, I was thinking she wasn't respecting you. And I have that same story, running for me, that this has to look a certain way. It's hard not to get that personal sense involved in situations like you described.
Exactly, Alice. Thank you. And, in a case like this, my sister is 4 years older. So this happened throughout my entire upbringing. She just totally bossed me around every day. And, I had to flee basically. And so I just, the respect thing really came up right there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, that thread runs through my life. I'm glad you brought that up, Peter.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I was saying it was kind of like coming out of the closet, our meeting, because growing up, I never felt like I could express how I truly felt, like that nothing made sense to me and that I couldn't figure life out, right? And so now it's like coming out of the closet. I'm like, yeah, I can't figure anything out. There's no more hiding it. I just don't know, and it doesn't matter to me what anyone, it's just the experience here is one of not knowing and freedom.
You're no longer supposed to know.
Well, the one that thinks they know, if that one is searched for, you may find that you can't find that one.
I was thinking about what you were saying at the beginning of the meeting, and about it's just what's happening, and that our thoughts don't belong to the me. Really, that, yeah. Anyway, I can't think what else you said, but I was just thinking, if I have a car accident with somebody, I don't give way to them when I should, and we have a bang, a smash, I can't say to the person I bumped into, well, there's no me here, and it's just what's happening.
No.
I still have to have a sense of responsibility. I still have to own it, or it belongs to me, doesn't it? Like the ball's in my court to get the insurance sorted and get it fixed up. So, well, there it's very sweet to say, yeah, the thoughts don't belong to me and nothing belongs to me. But sometimes there's something that does belong to me.
Yeah.
Well, if
So
you
when you get, let's say you get an offender bender, you think it's
But-
you think it'll be you deciding what to do in that moment? It won't be. There's already not a you
Right.
to comply, to not comply, to drive away, to not, it'll just be whatever happens.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, thanks.
what likely will happen is that the person who has the bump will give you their card and say, have your lawyer or your insurance broker call you, and they'll write down your number from the license plate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but I think then what Michael's saying is that that'll just be what's happening. It won't be because I particularly did something. It's just like that's, in a way, it's life unfolding. That, yeah.
Mhm.
Thanks, Michael.
But also, Faith, there's no doer.
Yeah, but that's like, I was just trying to get my head around when there's no, you know, if I was to have a car accident or something, I'm just trying to get my head around, yeah, that there's no doer, and yet things do happen. So then it leads you into, it leads into no free will. Yeah, no free will. Which
Well-
I've built my life upon,
Yeah.
having will and taking responsibility and, you know, blah blah blah. You go on.
Well, what this message is saying, Faith, is that it's not even really about free will or not free will. It's about there's no one there already to either have free will or not.
Yeah, okay. So it still gets back to just what's happening. Yeah.
There's no escape.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I need to ponder that a bit more. Even though there's no one to ponder.
Yeah.
So it's like getting the car insurance, that would just be a natural manifestation of what is here too, but with no person, because it's just thoughts.
Yeah. Well, the little revelation is that there's never been a person doing the car insurance for as long as you've been doing car insurance.
It's mind blowing.
Yes. Yes, it is mind blowing.
In a literal sense.
Alice, we can't hear you, Alice.
I was just thinking I had an accident recently, and actually when the accident happened, it was my fault. But it was so easy to know what to do. Call my insurance agency, do this. There was no thinking about it. I just knew ABC what to do. And it was only after the fact when I thought about it that there was some distress. But it's kind of like rock climbing. You're doing some of those things. You're so focused in doing what you need to do. It seems like the I comes in later and talks about it.
Thinks about it. Yeah, so it's interesting to think, does the thought come before the action, or does the action come before the thought? And I think, contrary to what I've believed, is really I think what you're saying, Alice, is the action comes before and the thoughts come after it. They seem to come at the same time very often. And then I think the thoughts are triggering the action, but maybe it's the other way around. I don't know.
Well, I think what I've heard Michael say before, that there is no before and there is no after. And that's always a story that we tell of before and after. And we're talking about fender benders and car insurance and these things. Well, I mean, we could talk about a Zoom meeting that's going on. And do I know how to be in a Zoom meeting? And is there free will? Do I know how to choose how to do this? Well, maybe I do. Maybe I can, think about how there's free will acting here, and there's a choice going on, and there's a knowing of how to do it. But gee, that's all going to be a story, isn't it? Because isn't there just something happening here going on that we don't know, that I don't know, and who knows? But it's happening. It's doing. And every one of us is being perfectly, each one playing the role, showing up. It couldn't be more perfect, right? And then maybe later we can decide, is there free will? Yeah, I don't know. But I think what I've heard Michael talk about is that it's not knowing. There is no knowing here. And then the knowing is always making a story about it.
Well, there may be a desire or a temptation to want to know, because just resting in not knowing is, at least here, something somewhat new. So I recognize this temptation to want to know, the desire to know, because that's all I have known really, is knowing. Like, there isn't a whole lot of practice going through life not knowing. So this is like practicing not knowing in a way, even though yeah.
It's funny. It's hilarious. Yes, Peter doesn't know not knowing. All Peter knows, this one Peter person, knows my knowing. And this question of, how do I do this? How do I do it right? And how do I not screw it up, with my knowing? But
yeah, and doing.
But is that you? Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, but what we're saying, but does that actually have anything to do with anything? Is that just a story, or is there actually something here that is, well, in other words, are you really Peter? I mean, or that Peter, we know his story. But what does that have to do with you? What does that have to do with this? Which is not a story. It's actually, yeah. Yeah, but the me will always be trying to know. That's what me is. But what does that have to do with you, is the question. we're suggesting, I guess, that you never, there never was anyone who was being that me, that story.
Just had this flashback, like 30 years ago, getting stoned, and people would talk around you, and you'd sit there going like, man, I have no clue what's going on. I have no clue what they're talking about. It's a weird feeling.
Are you saying, Peter, that's what's happening at the moment?
Actually, not constantly, but every so often. And it happens when there is this attempt, or maybe it's a compulsion sometimes, to understand everything that is being said. To follow every story, every rabbit hole, to follow down every rabbit hole.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
And then like have empathy, understanding, empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the stories are happening, and they're beautiful. I mean, they're very interesting, but they're not happening to me. And that seems to make all the difference. So the story is great as a story, but it's not to me. And even if I think it's to me, that's still what's just happening. So you can't lose. You sort of like, we say you can't escape. I'm changing that. You can't lose, which is for me even more positive.
You can't be wrong. You can't be wrong.
Yeah. You can't be wrong. Oh, that's beautiful. I like that. I like that.
Oh, that has come up a few times here, that there is no right and wrong, which is quite liberating, actually, because one of my concerns is that I'm talking nonsense. And then, you see somebody like roll their eyes like, what the hell are you talking about, man?
Yeah, that I think shows a little bit of light on this, what it means that there's no me, because me is trying to be right. Me is always already wrong. That's why me is trying to get right, to be right, do the right thing, and know how to do it. Because the person is already wrong. That is the me. And so there's a story of trying to get right, trying to know, trying to do all that. But if nothing is wrong, then what happened to that me? What happened to that one that was trying to get right and that was wrong? And is this wrong? Because this is what there is. And it's not going to get righter. It just is what it is.
I have often found myself, like, if I say something and it is not understood, and I start explaining, and they keep like asking and not getting it, that's the story that happens. And occasionally it gets me really frustrated. Or I stop explaining, and it all comes, of course, because I think I know, or I have like a standpoint that I think is important to assert and push an opinion, the right opinion, of course, or the only opinion that is right.
Yeah. I can say, Peter, that here for most of my life, there was always this wanting to connect with somebody that thought like I did. We had the same values. And it would always be frustrating when it turned out the person had their own values and they had their own priorities and they just happened to not be mine. And so that would be, of course, seen as frustration. And, and now there's no longer that assumption that there's a certain way that others are supposed to behave, and there's just no there's no rule book anymore. And the me is always trying to figure out the rules to the game so it can succeed. But this has no rules.
I feel like there's so much humility in that statement. Like it's the human is okay, you know. Everything is okay. It's really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. This is just a story, but the difference is like watching a fireworks show, like expecting like big like explosions like you want it to be, and it's just not quite as great. It could have been better, versus just watching the show before you without knowing anything.
Nkosi, can you hear us? Oh, hi, Nkosi. Hi. I have a question for you. I've been waiting for you to come on. And then I know you have answered this for me maybe months ago, but I just need a refresher on it. But with all this happening in the news and all of these people being killed in Israel and Hamas and all that, I keep remembering, I keep saying to myself, we are not bodies. And that too is a dream. I'm wondering if you would be able to kind of rephrase that whole thing, because sometimes I feel horrified at some of the happenings that are happening in the world today. And some of those reminders are just helpful to not get so sucked into this horror that's seemingly going on, apparently in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's just this, which is everything. And this, as it is, it has nobody in it already. There's no doer of things. It's just what appears in this. This can never be known. This can never be understood. This can never be gotten, because there's nobody outside of it to get it, to know it already. It's already nothing being everything. So it doesn't really matter the bodies, which are also this appearing, they may seem to drop, but already there is nobody in them. They're just empty. This can never really be affected by anything. It was never born and it never dies. And it is not a human being. It may dream, in its dream, it may appear as a human being who's living life, who's going up and down, trying to fix this and that. But it's never really a human being. It's just a dream. That's all imagined. There is already no you who's listening, who's asking a question. Therefore, there are no others as well. What seems to be others, it's already totality, everything, wholeness appearing as that. So the bodies may drop, but the wholeness as it is, it's already whole and complete. This doesn't drop. It's never affected by anything. It's already deathless. It is the unborn, the undying. So you can call it life. So life as it is, can never die because life was never born. When the body drops, life recognizes itself that it has never been a body. It has always been life. So nothing happens. And it is also recognized that there were no others. There was just life. So there is nobody outside of life who's trying to find life. There is nobody outside of this who's trying to find this. There is only ever this, appearing as everything, appearing as somebody who doesn't understand, appearing as somebody who understands, appearing as somebody who's searching, seeking, going up and down. So what's happening is not personal. It's just what appears to happen. It's just totality appearing as that. Appearing as a wall, appearing as bodies dropping, explosion happening, appearing as people asking questions, appearing as fear, doubts, hopelessness. It's never really personal. It's just what appears to happen. The fear itself and the anger doesn't belong to anyone. It's just this, nothing appearing as that. And there's nobody behind fear who's fearing. There's nobody behind any anger. So the explosion may happen. It may seem as if somebody is affected or people are dying. But things really are not as what they seem to be. Nobody ever dies because nobody was ever born. No one has ever been born. Nobody is alive, even. So there's nobody to die. It's just life. There is no possessor of it. There's no owner of life. And this life is everywhere. It's boundless. It expresses as everything. It expresses as mountains, as people, different races. It expresses as the sky, the space. It expresses as everything. So if something happens to the mountain, it doesn't really matter. Nothing matters to this because everything is this already. Life is never affected. Life can never be destroyed because life was never created. There's no woman or man here already. It's just life. Expressing itself as a woman and a man. When a woman dies or the body drops or what seems to be a woman, life is never affected. Life continues to be what it is. And it expresses in us in different bodies as well. So there's no you already to experience life, to live life. There's just life appearing as a you. So it's a play, really. It doesn't need to be taken seriously. It's just a play. It's just a simulation. It's a beautiful show. If you are playing a video game, if you are playing a certain character in the video game, then that character happens to experience explosion or get shot. Then you die. Do you really die? Or the character dies, but what about you? Do you die with the character? So yeah, it's like that. When you're really focusing on it, it may seem as if you are that character in the video game. You know, you may even scream, shout, "Oh no, no, no!" Then an explosion. Boom. Oh, what remains? You don't die with the character. You're still there, taking another character as well, playing a game. You know, so it's like that.
Mhm.
Very helpful the way you expressed it with the simulation and the video game. Thank you.
You're welcome.
wanted to chime in. It's not sitting well with me, the idea, a comparison of a video game to what's happening. There's a human experience going on. That's this too. And the human experience is such that there's a war going on. And people are getting killed brutally, beheaded. And so I don't agree with these comments that it's like a video game. Because being human is this too. So anyway, just wanted to share that.
Can I say something? I don't know if people can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you, Maria. Go ahead.
Maybe just because of listening to Nkosi, what he was saying, that brought up something. And then this person who just spoke brought up similar thing. I was thinking that this message isn't a human message, however strange it may seem, because there are words being spoken and we apparently are humans sharing stuff. But truly, I think this message isn't a human message. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Maria. This message isn't trying to do anything.
Yeah, the pain that's going on in the war and the people who are feeling pain with it, that's happening. And so that's not to be denied, because that is happening. And it's just what's happening. So it is happening, and the pain and the anger and the hatred and all is happening. But it's not denying that. It's not denying that at all. It's just knowing that that is what's happening. And I think that when I'm, especially with the war, it's like when I just think there's a me and I just get angry, I become just hateful. But when I know that this is just what's happening, then that anger and that hatred that seemed to be here, it seems like I'd be more effective in doing what I want to do to sort of like end the war or make a contribution to end the war. That from knowing that it's all this, it's more effective in the story. So I'm looking at there's denying nothing here.
Don, you know what came up, like the war, it's like it's a strong, this is like these are all stories, but that's a strong story that goes under the skin. But how is it a different story than the fender bender? You can say, well, the fender bender, there is no suffering, or it's, you know, like there is no blood. And so the question is, when do you say something is really happening and I need to stop it, or I want to stop it. You said, you know, you want to stop it. And yet, all along in this meeting, the message that was received here was there is nothing happening, you know, or there is nobody here to control anything. And so just because the signal gets very strong when there is bloodshed and beheading, and you know, how does that change everything? It's just a much more dramatic story. And then all of a sudden you flip and say, well, this is really happening because there is blood, you know.
But it seems the goal is even, oh, sorry, my bad, Peter.
No, I was just gonna say, I don't have the answer, you know, I don't know, go ahead.
Since like this isn't a goal to actually attain, and there's nothing to get out of this, right? And I mean, it's terrible, obviously, what's happening with the war. We can just recognize that. And even those thoughts are accepted here too, right? There's nothing wrong with that either. That's just like it's horribly beautiful. You know, it's weird to call it that, but it's thoughts still defining what's happening, but nonetheless, we can't deny that it's still happening. That's just what's felt here, I guess.
Yeah.
But it is terrible.
I have a couple of thoughts, and then maybe we can hear from Nkosi to close it out. So for me, it's a symbol of when the separation is taken as real, that the person I'm shooting at and killing is not me, has nothing to do with me. They're less than me. So there's that division that the me always has. And given the right set of circumstances, there can be horrible atrocities. And no one's doing any of it. Nobody's doing any of it. Nkosi, maybe you can take us out?
Yeah, there's just this talking happening, discussion happening, thinking happening, analyzing, searching. What seems to be good or bad feelings, you know, it's just what's happening. And what's happening is not personal. And it's not going anywhere. And it's not gonna solve anything. This is already everything. There is no dividing line. There is no separation. It's just this boundless, you can call it boundless energy, dancing, because it's never really separated. It may seem as if it separates, there's a separation, but there's no real separation. That's all just imagined. So it doesn't matter, anything may be spoken, any opinion may arise, any question may arise. It's already this totality, everything appearing as that. There is no one outside of this. There's nothing outside of this already. Yeah, that's what's coming up. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. To each and every one of you, we so appreciate and love everyone. Nkosi, no words. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.